It was supposed to be an ordinary summer afternoon in 1973. But for a 15-year-old boy named Terry Sutter, it became his last. Discovered dead under circumstances so strange they still baffle investigators today. His case has remained unsolved for over 50 years. You're watching the Enigma Files, where we uncover mysteries the world can't forget. Terry's story begins in the small, quiet town of Frankfort, Michigan, a place where everyone knew each other and life moved at a slow, comforting pace. But on that August day, an unimaginable tragedy would turn this peaceful town into the stage for one of America's most haunting unsolved mysteries. The boy who went out for a simple swim would never return alive. And what happened next shocked even the most seasoned investigators. Why was Terry's body found in such an unusual state? Why did the autopsy reveal strange inconsistencies? And most importantly, who wanted a 15-year-old boy dead? These are the questions that have lingered for half a century, questions that continue to grip both locals and mystery seekers around the world. To truly understand the depth of this case, we must first return to that fateful summer day. The day Terry disappeared, August 16th, 1973. The sun shone brightly over Frankfort, Michigan. Families gathered along the shores of Lake Michigan, enjoying the warmth of summer. Among them was Terry Sutter, a typical teenager who loved sports, laughter, and spending time with his friends. That day, he told his mother he was heading to the beach for a swim. Nothing out of the ordinary, but as hours passed, worry began to creep in. Terry didn't come home. His family, at first reassured that maybe he was with friends, soon realized something was terribly wrong. Search parties formed. Locals combed the beach, calling his name, hoping for a response that never came. By nightfall, the town's atmosphere had shifted from calm to tense. Something didn't feel right. Terry wasn't the kind of boy to disappear without telling anyone. And in a community where everyone was connected, silence was more alarming than noise. The following morning, their worst fears were confirmed. Terry's lifeless body was discovered, but not in a way anyone expected. He hadn't drowned like many assumed. Instead, what investigators found pointed to something far darker, something sinister lurking beneath the surface. What exactly was discovered when Terry's body was examined would forever change how this case was seen. When Terry's body was pulled from the waters near the Frankfurt breakwall, locals braced for tragedy. Drowning accidents, though heartbreaking, were not unheard of. But within hours, whispers began spreading. This was no ordinary drowning. First, Terry's body showed signs inconsistent with accidental submersion. His lungs weren't filled with water the way they should have been if he'd simply drowned. Then came the bruises, marks that suggested he may have been beaten or restrained before death. Investigators noted injuries around his face and chest, adding to the confusion. But the most disturbing detail was still to come. According to reports, a small amount of sand and debris was discovered in his system, but not in a way consistent with swimming. Some believed this indicated he had been suffocated, possibly with sand, before being placed in the water. The autopsy raised far more questions than it answered. Was this a case of accidental drowning gone wrong, or had Terry been murdered in cold blood? The ambiguity left room for endless speculation, and for decades afterward, rumors continued to swirl. For the small town of Frankfurt, the reality was terrifying. If Terry had been killed, then someone among them was capable of murder and had gotten away with it. But to uncover the truth, investigators had to dig deeper into Terry's world, his friends, his habits, and even his family. The investigation into Terry Sutter's death was both urgent and chaotic. Police worked under immense pressure. A teenager had died under mysterious circumstances, and the town demanded answers. Initially, drowning remained the official cause of death. But whispers about the strange autopsy findings spread quickly. This made police look harder at the people closest to Terry. They interviewed his friends, many of whom claimed they had only seen him briefly that day. None could clearly account for where he had gone in those final hours. Then came the rumors. Some locals whispered about fights Terry may have had with older teens. Others speculated about jealous rivalries or possible connections to shady activities near the docks. Police checked every angle, but leads seemed to vanish into thin air. One theory suggested Terry had been attacked near the beach, beaten, and then thrown into the water to make it look like an accident. Another pointed to the possibility of suffocation, explaining the strange findings in his lungs. Despite these possibilities, no solid evidence emerged. There were no eyewitnesses, no confessions, and no murder weapon. The investigation soon stalled, leaving his family without closure. For the Sutters, grief was compounded by frustration. They believed someone out there knew the truth, but fear, or perhaps loyalty, kept the town silent. And as days turned into months, the hope of finding Terry's killer began to fade. Yet even as the case went cold, certain clues and strange inconsistencies refused to let the mystery rest. As weeks turned into months, the official investigation lost momentum. But the town of Frankfurt could not stop talking. Rumors began to fill the silence left by the lack of answers. Some locals whispered that Terry may have crossed paths with a group of older teenagers that day. There were stories of small-town conflicts, of pranks and bullying that sometimes escalated too far. Was Terry the victim of an accident disguised as something darker? Others speculated that perhaps Terry knew something he wasn't supposed to. Frankfurt was a port town, and with it came occasional whispers of illegal activity, smuggling, drugs, even shady dealings around the docks. Could it be that a curious teenager accidentally stumbled into the wrong place at the wrong time? Then there were the most chilling rumors that someone close to Terry might have been involved. A trusted friend, a neighbor, maybe even someone from within the community who appeared ordinary by day, but hid a far more sinister side at night. Each theory painted a different picture, yet none had the evidence to back it up. But in small towns, whispers have weight. And for Terry's grieving family, these endless rumors were like fresh wounds reopening again and again. But even rumors eventually fade. And when official answers never came, the case slowly slipped into silence. By the late 1970s, Terry Sutter's case had officially gone cold. Investigators moved on to other crimes, leaving behind a file full of unanswered questions. For the Sutter family, the lack of closure was unbearable. His mother, in particular, never stopped pressing authorities, never stopped demanding that someone, somewhere, reopen the case. Over the decades, small attempts were made to revive the investigation, but each time, the trail was too cold, the evidence too thin, the witnesses too unreliable. Frankfurt itself moved forward, but the shadow of 1973 never truly left. Occasionally, true crime enthusiasts and independent investigators would revisit the story. Internet forums lit up with speculation. YouTubers dissected the autopsy reports, and amateur sleuths mapped theories connecting Terry's case to other unsolved deaths in the region. But despite the digital age's reach, no breakthrough ever came. For Terry's family, the silence was both cruel and deafening. The unanswered question remained: had their son been murdered, or was his death simply a tragic accident shrouded in confusion? Yet even 50 years later, Terry's story refuses to die. Because the way he was found and the unanswered questions around his death continue to haunt everyone who dares look closer. There are thousands of cold cases across America, but Terry Sutter's story stands out. Why? Because it's not just about a death. It's about the possibility of hidden truths in a seemingly innocent town. Every detail is unsettling. The inconsistencies in the autopsy, the injuries that didn't quite add up, the strange rumors that never went away. It feels less like a solved tragedy and more like a puzzle missing its most important piece. Unsolved cases hold power because they force us to imagine. Was there a killer who walked away without consequence? Did someone in Frankfurt keep a terrible secret for decades? Or was it all simply an unfortunate accident that spiraled into urban legend? The haunting comes not only from Terry's death, but from what it represents: the fragility of truth, the silence of witnesses, and the way mysteries can outlive those who experience them. And this is exactly why stories like Terry's matter, especially in a space where some creators get it wrong, and only a few dare to dig deeper. On platforms across the internet, you'll find creators covering Terry Sutter's case, but too often the story is rushed, reduced to a handful of facts without the depth or atmosphere it deserves. Some skip key autopsy details. Others rely on sensational rumors without questioning their truth. That's where the Enigma Files is different. Here, we don't just retell events, we guide you through them. We give you the atmosphere, the emotion, the unsettling silence of a community holding secrets. We bring every thread together, letting you feel the weight of unanswered questions. In a world where attention spans are short, we believe mystery deserves patience. Stories like Terry's aren't just headlines, they're warnings, puzzles, and glimpses into the unknown. And only by diving deeper do we truly honor them. Which leads us here to you, the listener, because the story isn't over until you decide what it means. 50 years have passed since Terry Sutter's life was cut short, and still the mystery remains. Was he a victim of foul play? Or was it a tragic accident clouded by fear and rumor? The truth may never be known. But one thing is certain, Terry's story will not be forgotten, not by his family, not by his community, and not by us. His case is more than a cold file. It's a reminder of how fragile justice can be, and how silence can bury truth deeper than the grave. Now, the mystery comes to you. What do you believe happened to Terry Sutter on that summer day in 1973? Was it murder, accident, or something far stranger? Share your thoughts in the comments. Discuss, debate, because sometimes the answer to a mystery doesn't come from a single person. It comes from the collective voices of those who refuse to let it die. And if you want more stories like this, subscribe to the Enigma Files, because this is only one of many shadows history has left behind, and together we'll keep searching. After all, some mysteries never rest.